What do you think we should do then with the people that have paid in their entire life into Social Security and maybe they're just about to receive it, or maybe they got a couple more years to go before they can start receiving those benefits? That's a really tricky one. I remember learning in U.S. history, actually, back in high school, the first person ever to contribute to Social Security.
Yeah, I'm a Fuller.
Yeah. And how much did she pay in, if you remember?
Hardly. She lived to be 99.
That was the most ironic thing of all, is that she paid in, I think it was like some very small amount. It could be hundreds, could be like tens of dollars.
She collected like 20,000 or something.
Yes. She received back like thousands of percent of what she contributed.
Yeah, that's the case with all Ponzi schemes or pyramids or chain letters. If you get in at the very beginning, you make a lot of money. The gains from the people that come in early are covered by the losses for the people who come in late, right? A lot of the people in Bitcoin are going to find this out the hard way, right? People made money in Bitcoin who got in early, and that's because all these other people got in late who are going to lose money. But, what I would do if I was, in charge or could do it, first of all, it just reminds me of Animal House. You see that movie? There's a line in that movie, Otter, the main character, and I don't want to use the F word, but he's like, you effed up. You trusted us, right? That's kind of what, this makes me think of. People really effed up because they trusted the government with their retirement, and the government blew it, right? The whole purpose, the pretext that the Roosevelt administration used when it created Social Security, which never should have been created, completely unconstitutional, was that people are not smart enough to save for their retirement. So we need the government to do it for them. And that's why initially it didn't apply to the self-employed, because the government said, well, if you're smart enough to run your own business, well, you can save for your own retirement. But if you're just the average Joe Schmo who's got a job, well, you're too dumb to save. So the government's going to take your money by force and save it for you. Of course, the government spent every nickel of Social Security tax they collected, right? They saved nothing. They did a worse job than anybody could have possibly done. What I would do now, right, instead of just creating inflation and just spreading the pain kind of across the board equally without any regard to how it affects people, right? Because if we just print a lot of money, we don't make any cuts to Social Security, and we just print a lot of money, Warren Buffett's Social Security is going to go down by the same amount as his secretary. So people who really need Social Security, they're going to be hit exactly the same as people who just use their Social Security, to tip the caddies at their country club. I would rather say, look, Social Security is bankrupt. It doesn't work. Program is over. Right? We're ending it. Never should have had it. We're eliminating the payroll tax for everybody. You're all off the hook. No one has to pay 15% anymore payroll tax, right? Now we got to deal with this mess, because now we have all these people who are broke, who pay these high taxes all their lives, and there's no money, right? So what are we going to do? Well, let's develop a transitionary program. We'll qualify people based on means for now, right? So if you're destitute and Social Security is all you got, all right, well, we'll have maybe we'll buy you an annuity. There's some way that we can get you something. If you're wealthy, if you have income, if you have assets, tough luck, right? You screwed up. You trusted us. Because, if somebody's got enough money to take care of themselves, then they got to take care of themselves. Because otherwise, what you're really doing is Social Security is taxing the poor to subsidize the rich. The young and the poor are being taxed to subsidize the old and the rich. And why? If I'm a poor kid, right? Let's say I'm not going to inherit any money from my parents, right? My parents don't have a lot of money. Why should I work to pay Social Security taxes so some rich guy doesn't have to spend his money, so that when he dies, his kids inherit a bunch of money that I'm not going to inherit? I mean, so if you can afford to take care of yourself, then you got to do it. And the money you paid into Social Security, well, it's gone. It was stolen by the government, right? Just think of it as another income tax, because legally, that's what it is. If you actually look at the law, the Social Security tax is another income tax. Nobody is entitled to anything. Just because you paid the tax, you're no more entitled to your Social Security money back than your income tax back. And the money all went into the general revenue. All the money that was collected in Social Security, that was used to fight the Vietnam War, the space program, the Iraq War, Obamacare, all this, it came from the same pool of money. All right. So we've got to come to terms with this and figure out the best way to deal with it. But the way we're going to deal with it is the worst possible way. We're just going to wipe out the value of the money, and everybody is going to suffer.
So then what do you believe should be done for people that don't make the right decisions for themselves? Do you believe in a full-blown, unmitigated, laissez-faire economy? Or do you think there should still be some social programs to help those people? We were listening to Jordan Peterson recently, and he had a really interesting argument, which was an observation of a study done by the U.S. military, which is that people with an IQ beneath 83, which is 10% of the population, they are positively counterproductive in any work environment.
Well, I would say the government makes decisions that are of lower quality than your average 80 IQ person. So I would trust individuals to make their own decisions more than I would trust a third party who doesn't bear any responsibility or consequence from those decisions, right? I think by and large, people can make the right decision. I mean, after all, we trust people to vote. I mean, if you don't think that people can make the right decisions, then they shouldn't be voting, right? Because that's a decision that they shouldn't make either,
I think
right?
Financially, many people don't make the right decisions.
Well,
even
I
if
think
you
they're
lay
more
it out,
likely to make the right decision financially than to make the right decision politically on who to vote for. So that voting is something that I'm more concerned about than people just saving for their retirement. But this is how it should be. It's a free market. You get the benefits of your good decisions. You suffer the consequences of your bad decisions. You learn from your mistakes, right? These are the proper incentives, right? If you want to encourage good decisions and discourage bad decisions, you allow people to enjoy the benefits when they do something right, and suffer the consequences when they do something wrong. And to the extent that people just make a series of bad decisions and find themselves in a destitute situation, charities are there. That's why charities exist. And I believe that individuals, will take better care of their fellow human beings than government will. That individually, we are better at charity than collectively. And all you have to do is look at the numbers. Government-run programs, better than 90% of the cost goes to finance the government that provides the benefit. So the government takes $1 out of your pay, and 10 cents goes to help people, 90 cents goes to perpetuate the bureaucratic machine. Whereas in private charities, you donate $1, 90 cents goes to the people that you're trying to help, and like 10 cents goes to administer the charity. So, and I think private charities are more concerned about helping get people out of poverty, whereas government programs are more concerned about trapping them in poverty perpetually, so they never get out, because they want to maintain the necessity of the program, and they want to keep the voters coming back for more. Once I can get somebody addicted to government money, I've got their vote for life. And so government wants to keep people poor. The private sector doesn't want them to be poor, right? It wants to help them out of poverty, not trap them in poverty.
That's a really good point, because I was going to say, for the sake of playing devil's advocate, a lot of people argue, and I think somewhat rightfully so, that we do need like a social and economic fabric, because if we don't have that and people go into a position of destitution or they go into being impoverished, that affects everybody.
Oh, yeah. But also people think, look, if we didn't have government doing all this stuff, we'd all get to keep our money. I mean, if you think about America from 1790, when we started really as a country, until, World War II, when we really started paying the income tax. I mean, even though we got the income tax in 1913, very few people paid it until 1942, right? There was no withholding tax. Nobody had taxes taken out of their pay. That was all to fight the war. So if you think we need an income tax, then you must think we needed World War II, because without World War II, we never would have had an income tax. But if you think about America from 1790-ish to 1942, what did Americans do with all their money when they didn't have income taxes to pay, right? And they didn't have Social Security taxes. That didn't even start until the 30s, and that was 1%. And it didn't even apply to you if you were self-employed, right? So what did Americans do with all that money that they don't have anymore, that the government takes for them? Well, apart from just having more money for themselves, they donated to charity, right? And so most people would think, hey, if you didn't have to pay any more income taxes, if you didn't have to pay any more Social Security taxes, if you got to keep pretty much everything you earn, would you be willing to voluntarily take some of that money and help out people that needed your help? Would you be willing to do that? I mean, most people would do it if they had the money. The reason a lot of people don't donate to charity today is they can barely afford to support themselves. And they figure, why do I need to? The government's already taken 30%, 40%, 50% of my income. That's all the charity I can afford, right? People are stuck, because the government has taken their money. So I think if we had a free market, everything would be better. And there'd be a lot more charitable giving.
Do you remember that doctor's appointment you were supposed to make a while ago? The one that's been sitting on your to-do list for weeks, maybe months? Maybe it was that overdue annual checkup, the weird rash you keep Googling, or it's your dentist reminding you it's been 2 years since your last dental cleaning. Trust me, we've all been there. Booking a doctor's appointment has always felt like such a hassle until now.
That, of course, is where our sponsor, ZocDoc, comes in. For those unaware, ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, then book an appointment right away.
You can filter by insurance, location, and medical specialty, and you can also check verified patient reviews so you know exactly what to expect.
Then once you find the right doctor, you could see their real-time availability and book an appointment that fits your schedule.
And appointments made through ZocDoc happen super quick, usually within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. And yes, sometimes you can even score same-day appointments. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/iced to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That is ZocDoc.com/iced. This message is sponsored by ZocDoc, and back to the episode.